Hey, thank you for tuning into Series 3 of Bullock's Rules for Writing. This series is about arguments. If you've not watched Series 1 on sentences or Series 2 on paragraphs, that's okay. But I do encourage you to go down to the description and follow the first link there. That is to episode 0, where I kind of talk about why I'm doing these videos and what the most important rule is. Really, the only rule you really need to know. But right now, for those of you who have watched episode 0, we're going to kick off arguments right after the theme song. Hey everybody, Series 3, Arguments. Before we do anything else, I have to get something off of my chest, okay? There is one E in argument. Just one. Please stop spelling it with 2 E's, okay? Just stop. Every time you do that, a little piece of my soul dies. Okay, I've got that out of my system. I should be okay. Before I started recording this series on argument, I did a Google image search for the word argument. It is scrolling right there, right now. And you can either see it or, search it yourself. But it's mostly pictures of 2 people screaming at each other. And that's, kind of the common definition of what an argument is. But there is a big difference between what I mean when I say argument to you or to my class and the colloquial meaning of argument. Colloquial, it's a big word. I don't mind using it because I want you to learn big words and be smart. Colloquial literally means in the voice of the people. So it's something is colloquial when it is slang or informal or distinctly non-academic in nature. So the colloquial meaning of argument is what all that yelling was about. It's, what happens when you and your parents are trying to negotiate a curfew. There's probably some raised voices and not very much calm, well-reasoned argument on either side. And that's what the academic definition of argument is. I actually really like the definition that was put forward by the Common Core State Standards. I'm going to put it here on the screen. An argument is a reasoned, logical way of demonstrating that the writer's position, belief, or conclusion is valid. You are that writer, and it is your worldview that you are trying to get across and show other people that it's valid, or reasonable, or true, or worth adopting for themselves. There will be a later series on arguments, a more advanced series on arguments, where we will get into a lot of the reason and logic parts of making an argument. This particular series focuses much more on the second half of that definition from the Common Core. The part where you're getting across your point of view, your beliefs. And we're going to spend time in this series. Episodes 2, 3, and 4 are talking about claims, evidence, and warrants. Those are 3 things that I hope you have heard of. And if you're watching the series, it possibly means that, you've heard of them, but you need a little bit of help with them. And that's okay. That's why I'm making this video series in the first place, is to help people like you do a better job at writing things. Now, before we go on, a couple of things that I want to point out. Not only is argument not yelling and screaming at someone, argument is actually a very broad term that could include a lot of things that are not written. You can have memes, you can have political cartoons, you could have art, television shows, theater, movies, even YouTube videos. Those are all kinds of argument that could be made that are not written down. And even when you're writing an argument, there are a lot of different kinds of arguments besides the persuasive essay, which is the one that I think is the most common. Now, because the persuasive essay is the most common, we will be talking mostly about that. And in fact, I've got a great sample or a great model argument of persuasion that we'll be using in episodes 2, 3, and 4 to see how claims, evidence, and warrants can be structured and used in the real world. But just be aware that there are a lot of other things you might be asked to do. You might be asked to write an argument of definition or an argument of fact, right, where you're trying to prove that a thing is this way. You might be asked to write an argument of policy or a solution argument where you acknowledge that there is a problem that other people agree is a problem and you propose your own solution for it. There might be an argument of a process or cause and effect. This is how we do something, or this has happened because of something. You might be doing an argument of value or of judgment. You might be doing an argument of analysis. In fact, series 4 is going to be all about analysis, mostly literary, which I think a lot of you will appreciate. So please understand that when I say argument, and when we talk in this series about persuasion, there is so much more that is implied and that lies behind those two words of argument and persuasion. Okay, yeah, we're talking about writing a persuasive essay in this series, but please do not feel like you are limited only to writing an argument. If you're really good at making, I don't know, infographics, that can be an argument, and it's not the traditional written persuasive essay. In fact, I think we could really sum it up with just the simple sentence, everything is an argument. And in fact, Everything's an Argument is the name of a very popular textbook series about argument. Those of you who did watch episode 0, you probably remember this 800-page doorstop of a book, Steven Pinker's The Better Angels of Our Nature, Why Violence Has Declined. It is an excellent book, an excellent read, very interesting subject, but he's also the author of this much slimmer volume called The Sense of Style, The Thinking Person's Guide to Writing in the 21st Century. Steven Pinker is a lot of things, and among them he's an expert on neuroscience and the brain, and an expert on language and linguistics. So he argues in this book that we can use good brain science to help people write good essays, good arguments, good text, just be good writers. And he advocates something that's called the classic style. That's why the title of this episode is No Yelling, Please, Keep It Classic, not Keep It Classy, which, so it's a little bit of a pun. I try to, yeah. But anyway, the classic style, Pinker describes it this way. I'm going to put his quote up nice and large so you can see it. Your job as the writer is to point out something in the world that the reader can see with her own eyes if only you give her an unobstructed view. What Pinker says there fits perfectly with what the Common Core has defined an argument as. He says, there's a reader out there, and you have to give her a clear, complete, unobstructed view of your perspective. There's something in the world that you believe, that you see, that you wish would happen. And the reader is just waiting to be shown what that is. This is difficult. This is something that I struggle with. I personally write a lot about education policy in the state of Wisconsin. And I'm not going to get into it here, but stuff is weird. And there are kinks in state law and the funding formula for public schools and all this other stuff that it would take hours for me to explain. But because I live with that and I know that and it's in my brain constantly, I want to write as if everybody else knows that. It's what Pinker calls the curse of knowledge, that you, as the writer, You see every day with your own eyes your own worldview. You hear with your own ears, you smell, you taste, you touch. Your world is literally your world. And to write well is to show other people what that world is like. But you have to be able to put yourself into the shoes, into the mind, into the eyes and ears of your audience, and make sure that you're telling your audience everything that they really need to know to understand your belief or your worldview or your call to action. This is all because, and it's all brain, okay? As I said, Pinker, he knows his neurology. There is something that happens to human children around the age of 3 or 4, which is that they transition from not understanding that other people have thoughts and feelings and experiences that are different from their own, the baby, the child, into understanding that, oh, okay, this other person has his or her own mind. It's actually called the theory of mind, that children, when they are born, up until, as I said, ages 3 to 4, they don't have this theory of mind that says the knowledge that's here in their own mind does not automatically exist in others. And there's this classic demonstration that is sometimes called the Sally-Ann test. It's called the Sally-Ann test because, well, there's a cartoon about 2 children named Sally and Ann. Here's how it begins. So Sally has a black box and Ann has a white box. That's pretty helpful because you notice that Sally has black hair, Ann has white hair. You know, just kind of helps us remember. And this is not metaphorical. It doesn't mean that Sally is evil and Ann is good. Okay, it's not Star Wars. It's not a Western. It's a psychology experiment. Sally has a marble. She puts the marble into her box. So, you know, here you see she's got the marble. She's going to put it into the black box. Okay? So far, everything is fine. Sally then goes for a walk. I mean, it's exercise. Sally's doing nothing wrong here. But while she's gone, Ann takes the marble out of Sally's box and puts it into her own white box. All right, so now you, if I asked you, if you are old enough to be watching YouTube videos about writing good arguments, you should be able to answer this question correctly. Where is Sally going to look for her marble? The correct answer, of course, is in the black box. That was the last place that Sally knew where the marble was. Like, we all saw Ann take that marble and put it into her own box, but Sally doesn't know that. And when I say, where's Sally gonna look for the marble, you are going to say, in the black box. But here's the thing. Before children have developed the theory of mind, again, somewhere between ages 3 and 4, you say to that child, you tell them the story, you show them these pictures, and you say, okay, child, where is Sally going to look for her marble? They are going to say, in the white box, in Ann's box. Because they, as an observer, they know where the marble is. And they cannot conceive of a world where Sally doesn't also know where the marble is, right? Everyone that they can see, Ann, themselves, whoever's putting them through this test, they all know where the marble is. They can't understand, these children, before they develop the theory of mind, that Sally doesn't know where the marble is. And Sally is going to look into the wrong place, which Sally thinks is the right place. I mean, Sally has plenty of evidence for the marble being in the black box, right? She had it, she put it in the box, she closed up the box, she walked away. There's no reason for Sally to think that the marble is anywhere else. So this is your job, as a writer of argument. You have to tell all of the Sallys out there where the marble really is. And you have to be able to do it clearly, because they may not know that there is a different box that they should be looking in. They might not even know really that there's a marble. So over the course of the next few episodes, we're going to talk about how to make that kind of case as clear and as simple and as uncomplicated as possible. That's what the classic style of writing is. It's not full of fancy words and jargon and assumptions about what your audience really knows and really doesn't know. Instead, it says, the classic style says, you, writer, you need to provide as many concrete steps as possible to guide an audience that probably knows less than you think they know to the correct conclusion. And that's what we're going to do. Claims, evidence, and warrants for the next 3 episodes to talk about how you can make that as clear as possible. And then there is an episode 5 for this series. It is another in my long-standing attempts to murder the 5-paragraph persuasive essay. I hope you tune in for that one as well. Right now, I'll see you for the next one. That's why the episode title here was No Yelling I'm gonna try that one more time.